Hello YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of the 1 to 100 skill Blade Liger from Takara Tomy. So yes, you heard me, 1 to 100 skill Blade Liger from Takara Tomy. Now Takara Tomy has been announcing, preparing a lot of stuff recently, and this is one of the first stuff to actually come out. So they started a new lineup called T-Spark brand. So this is more for the hobby brand, so not exactly for kids, more for the adults or adults who were kids who grew up watching their stuff and now are adults, and basically I think that's what they're going for. And then they also announced for something for Zoids, the original Zoids anime series called Realized Model. So basically for those who grew up with Zoids, we were always limited by the old Takara Tomy stuff where everything was motorized and there were no articulation. You were pretty much locked in because of the core motor. And now we find, and everybody was pretty much hoping to see maybe like a high grade level or maybe a high grade level Zoids kit maybe in the future, and we finally got that, and I am really happy. Now I did pre-order this. I was supposed to receive it maybe 2 weeks ago, but once again the company that took pre-orders messed up my order, so I had to wait. So anyway, let's see what we got here as well. So first of all, like I said in the manual, even on the box it does say skill in terms of 1 to 100. However, they also announced the Schwartz Saber Tiger, Irvine's Black Commander Wolf, and other Zoids, and each Zoids are technically different size. So in the future, like when we see Commander Wolf or maybe the other stuff, the scale might be different, is my guess. So anyway, let's see what we got. First of all, what you get, of course, is obviously Blade Liger itself. Now, I'm assuming since we got Blade Liger, I think it's only a matter of time that we get Shield Liger as well. So, the build process was okay. It didn't take as long as I expected. Now, for those who built an HMM kit, you know how long and tedious those kits are. This is not that. Much more pleasant as well, of course. The only difference would be obviously build level and then the size. So if HMM would be like master grade level ish or even more, this one is more like the HG level. I would like to point that out. So other than Blade Liger, what you're supposed to get is these. Oops, actually, sorry about that. Long. Once again, I mentioned this before, I got a new desk and this is a much larger desk. So you get these effect parts. Beautiful blade effect parts as well. So you basically just, if you have the blade out, you plug these in or slide these in and you're good to go. Now the only tricky part is that these parts are very, very pointy, so do be careful not to poke yourself when you're applying this as well. Now as far as I know, there's not exactly a left and right, but there is technically a left and right, but there's not much of an indicator compared to other stuff, so you just gotta fiddle with it. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, basically go for the opposite side. Alright, so other than this, you have some other leftover parts. So this would be technically a leftover parts. Now, one of my biggest concerns when they announced this kit, actually let me get this guy off the stand. One of my biggest concerns regarding this kit was that how are they going to do these things? Now these were, if you grew up with the original Zoid kits or toys, these would always be rubberized, and these would actually lock pieces into place. However, in this case, these are purely aesthetic. These do not lock anything into place. They're just pegs, and then you plug these parts in. So these are actually plastic. These are not rubber, plastic. So you do not need to worry about that, and you do get 3 leftover parts. Now most of these are commonly this specific size. However, there are maybe let's see, yeah, there's only 2 that is required to be on a different size. So other than that, you should be good to go as well. So I'm really glad they did this. For those who never built a Zoid kit in the past or even recently, here is a base example. So this is Burning Liger from the Zoid Wilds stuff as well. So this is pretty much the only one that I really like in terms of design, and also doesn't have that weird issue that I always mention about. So basically, Zoid toys would have, let me get this thing out. So this would be made out of rubber. And basically like this, you can see there's a peg, and this thing is actually locking in certain parts in place. So you have to put it like that. And then, so yeah, so these would, in the long run, I would assume to deteriorate. Even the greatest polycaps like made from Bandai or other companies do deteriorate over time. So once again, I think this would be a future problem that maybe Takara Tomy needs to fix, or unless these, like for these guys would be but in this case, their solution is to make them out of plastic and make them not lock into any pieces as well. Of course, there are, yeah, so most of them are just purely aesthetic, or actually all of them, yeah. Of course, if you do take them out, they will look off. So they're kind of essential still, despite being aesthetic. All right, and then you have these two leftover pieces. Now, technically, these would be option parts. So apparently, the one I went with is obviously the main character version, Bond Vryheit. I think I'm not sure how the English pronunciation is, but I do know the Korean name. So we have the main character here, and then I forgot the female character's name. But once again, you have a two-seater as well. Now, I never grew up with the original Blade Liger toy. I only had the Shield Liger, so I'm not sure if the cockpit was also a double-seater. But do let me know for those who grew up with it. I'm not talking about the HMM, so yeah. But once again, if you don't like the main character, the main character molding, you can always go with a typical pilot seat figure, because for those who bought the original one, they would always come with like a typical soldier in a suit, like seating pose. So yeah, that's that, and we get this part. So apparently this is like the common version, and this is the main character version. Now I've tried my best to figure out what the main difference is, and they look pretty much the same to me, but once again, you do get some options here. So that's that. Alright, so before we go into articulation, there was one request to compare this with a 1-to-100 scale Gunpla kit. Now, usually I would prefer to compare it with a 1-to-144 Gunpla kit, but so what the heck, here's both of them. Now, after this, any Zoid kit I review will be the T-Spar Realized model line I review, which I will. I'm going to be mostly comparing it with the 1-to-144 HG kit. I think because, once again, HG kits, 1-to-144 HG Gunpla kits are more common and more standard, if you ask me. So yeah. So here is the 1-to-144 HG Gunpla kit and 1-to-100 scale Master Grade Gunpla kit as well. So you can see, obviously, height-wise, they're much shorter, but when you look at the side, obviously, length-wise, it is about 1-to-144 scale length, if you exclude the tail, of course, as well. Obviously, the Master Grade is going to be much more longer, but if you include the tail, that's going to be a much different story. But once again, you get my point as well. So yeah, well, once again, I would like to also point this out. The 1-to-100 scale is just the size. Just because it's 1-to-100 scale doesn't mean it's automatically a Master Grade kit. The Master Grade, High Grade is the build level. Now, keep in mind, this is a Takara Tomy product, not a Bandai product. So the whole, is it a High Grade, is it a Master Grade, that does not apply to this. But the best way I can explain it is that this is more like a High Grade level kit as well. Alright, so we've gone through that. Let's see what we got. And by the way, if in the future, if they do ever go with a realized model of the more modern Zoids from Wild, I think this should be it. Not the main character stuff. Like the gold one. Not the big fan of that. Alright, so let's see what we got in terms of articulation. Now, once again, there are some parts that are very stiff, and so I am going to be a little bit careful not to force too much and break it. Now, most of the parts are very, not too tight, I'm talking about, but once again, there are some parts that are a little bit stiff, on the stiff side, so you do need to put some pressure or anything to make it move. Alright, let's start with the head. Now, I already showed the cockpit, so I don't think I need to open that. So let's start with the head. So definitely we have the more iconic Blade Liger look design here. With the teeth, once again, these parts are the gold, but the flat gold color going on here, and I believe the teeth and the claws are in the same color scheme going on here. Now, there are some interesting aspects which I'll get into later, which mostly is in the tail and the blades, but yeah. So the mouth, this is as far as I can close, and then you can open them. Oh, there we go. You can open them all the way down as well, so you should have no problems doing that as well. And then the head can go up thanks to another joint here. So this joint goes all the way up. Now, I think they were trying to maybe implement one of those core systems like the HMM, but once again, I think they scrapped that idea as well. Because once again, how often are you going to take those out? And once again, based on my experience with Saber Tiger, it wasn't as easy as I thought. So anyway, because of this joint, you can go all the way up, but you can see there is another joint there. So what you can do is that you can move the head side by side, which is a huge improvement compared to the old toys as well. Now, depending on the angle, the movement can be a little bit more, the range can differ, because once again, if you push it all the way in, it's slightly, because there is another joint there that it's going colliding, but once you pull it out, you can move just a little bit more, so you have a little more freedom. Now we have these fins on the side, which is mostly for the shield gimmick. So for those who didn't watch the anime, the Shield Liger or Blade Liger has a shield generator. So when you can open these fins up to the side and then open this part up, and then the bottom sector, there we go. Not all the way up, but you know, you can open this and this basically activates like a shield around it as well. So they did put that in. Although, once again, I feel like it would be really cool to have a effect part, but I'm not sure even how you would connect that. Alright, now let's look at the legs here. Now the legs, once again, huge improvement compared to the old toys. Once again, each leg, how should I do this actually? Let me back up and then let's do it like that. Alright, so each leg would have like a butterfly joint. So you can see the leg can go forward and backward like that. And then not only that, it can go upwards like that. So you can see there are multiple joints here which allows it to go upwards. So yeah, I think that is as far as you can go because the parts are colliding. And once again, there's no reason to go all the way 90° up compared like a Gunpla kit, because this is not a humanoid thing. So I think this should be enough. But technically, if you take out the leg, the joint itself can technically go up more. I just want to point that out as well. Now looking at the legs here, once again, we have another fin here, so you can move, you can open and close. The leg itself is technically on a peg, so you can kind of force it to go 360, but once again, make sure you know where you're moving it. And then once again, these are purely aesthetic, so you can straighten the leg like that all the way down, or you can have a slightly more, about a 90° or slightly more 90° bend. And then the feet are technically, these are on pegs, so you do get a very nice pivot. You get a very nice pivot joint as well, technically on a peg, so you can rotate it, and there is another polycap inside there, so yeah, you can move up and down. Yes, and I should mention, once again, there are polycaps inside here in parts, but these are very, like, not the, how should I say, Gunpla type, rubbery, soft ones. These are like the hard rubber stuff, so yeah, some parts are gonna feel very stiff at the first time. Alright, so that's that. So each leg should have the same articulation, so I don't think I need to show you both sides. And let's look at the back. Now the back here, you have this part that can open up, and yes, they actually did implement this, and I'm really glad they did. They did put also the booster pack here, the booster here. Now once again, this part is very stiff, so you can see I was like pulling all the way down up with my strength here. So very nice detail going on here. It makes me wonder if they're going to make an AB booster option, or maybe release a version with that, but who knows. But yeah, the booster there are some 2 joints here, so you can move up and down like that, and then there is another joint, so you can, if you want to change the angle, you can do that as well. Ooh. And then pushing it in. So honestly, when you consider this, they have all the bases to make a Shield Liger. Just change the equipment, change the armor, and I think they're good to go. Of course, I think the claws and the teeth might need to change into silver. Alright, now we'll go into the blades later, but the way how these work is that they're on the back here, and you can see it has the beam gun. You can basically just, basically the way how you would think it will work. And then obviously you can rotate the blades here, but once again, very stiff parts, so do be careful. And sometimes when you're opening this up, it may collide with other parts, so do be careful. And here's the interesting part here. This blade here actually came in painted. This is not something is a color separated pieces. This thing entirely is a single piece here. This entire piece here, and they colored this part gold. So if you look at the gold color here, now my camera is not doing the best job, but they do have a different tone here as well. So it was kind of interesting to see that. And if I have to mention another part that came in pre-painted was the tail here. So you can see those white parts on the tail that came in painted. And if you have noticed, compared to my other reviews, there are no stickers or decals in this, which is a big welcome for me. So everything you see here are all part separated. The only thing that is color separated or painted from the company is the blades and the tail. Alright, now let's look at the body. Now the body consists, when you're building this, you build the head, and then you build the front half of the body, the middle part of the body, and then the back part of the body. So so you can see there's going to be like 2 connections here. So one, I'm not sure. Now be careful when you're grabbing this, you have to make sure you know what part you're grabbing. So you can see the body can go downwards like that. Now it's not much, but once again, there is a little bit extra articulation going on here as well. And then even for the back, you have a side to side movement going. Oh, not exactly side to side, but actually no. Yeah, sorry, I was confused with a different joint. So you have a rotating part here. So just keep that in mind. So they did put a lot of engineering to make sure that this whole body is not a whole brick of a part like the old toy. So I think they did an excellent job in terms of that aspect. Of course, make sure that everything is back to a line because it could get a little bit messy depending on how you did it. Oops, sorry about that. And now let's get the back of the legs. So the back legs, once again, we have the opening fins, obviously still, technically still on pegs here. So here is the peg here. And then once again, you have the same similar kind of system where you have this part that can move outwards, and then you have another rotating point here. So once again, you can see this is the polycap. This is a brick of a polycap, so it's very stiff. Even pushing the parts back in is kind of tricky, but once again, you can make them come out, and then also have a little bit of a butterfly joint effect going on there as well. So parts are a little bit stiff, but once again, once you understand how these parts work, you can definitely have a nice stance going on here. And then finally, let's look at the back of the leg joint. So this part, obviously, because this is not a peg, going forward, oops, something popped out. So rotating this is technically possible. Just make sure you know where you're going. And then here is the articulation point. So there's one here. So you can go backwards, forwards a little bit, and that's that. And then you have this part here that can go forward and then backward like that. And then the feet, same type of joint as the front. You have a polycap that can make the foot go up and down, and then we have a nice pivot joint going on here because it is still on a peg. Now, definitely because I'm not used to this type of leg, it took me a while to get used to how to move or position the feet and match all the four legs on the ground. Because if you're not doing it correctly, you might have one feet like floating in air. So yeah, it may take some like to get used to these type of four-legged, mech animal beasts. So yeah. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the kit, and then the only part I didn't show is the tail, which was very tricky to plug in at the end because there is a polycap ball joint that you need to connect. But once you have it in, once again, very stiff, so do be careful not to snap the tail. I had that experience back in the past. So because it's on a ball joint, you can go up and down, you can rotate it if you want to do so. But once again, I do wish there were one or two extra joints here so that this is not a whole long piece, because this could become a problem in terms of displaying in the future. Alright, and this is the piece that popped out, which is no big deal. Alright, so I think there's only one thing left to show, and it's the demonstration of these effect parts. So I think I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have the final demonstration here. So I have an action base, and yes, you can actually put this guy on an action base, because if you look at the bottom section here, there is a hole here, and as far as I know, this is the main purpose of this hole. And you can just plug in with this is the Tamash Nations type action base, and it plugs in pretty well. Although I do think it would be better if you had a longer peg, but once again, you get my point. So here we have the demonstration here. So I have the booster out, I have the blades out, and then I was able to plug in the effect parts in there as well. Now it's not exactly a slide in through, because there's actually an empty gap space between these effect parts. So you need to put the blades between those parts, and there is exact same shape or mold of the blade here. So you have to plug it in a very specific area. So it may take a few times fiddling around, but once you have it, this looks amazing. So yeah, and the reason why I told you guys not to poke yourself is because the way how you push it in, you have to put it in like this. So in order to push this in, you're gonna have to you need to poke yourself here. So do be careful. So here is the effect part, the way how it works. You can see there is a slide gap between here, but not all the way through it in the middle here. And here it may look like you can just slide it in, but it doesn't slide in that easily as you think. So because if you look at the blade here, there is a part here that's not exactly straight, so you have to match. There's actually a part here actually for that. Yeah, exactly here. So not the best thing, but it looks amazing once you have it in there as well. So obviously, because of this joint, you can also change the angle of the blade if you want to do so. So you have a lot of free range of movement. And basically, if you saw the anime and as a kid and you want to do all sorts of poses, now you are able to do that. And that is pretty much it for the review. So once again, my first impression on this lineup, I am amazed. It's, you know, as someone who grew up with the original anime of the Zoid series, yeah, it's just really unreal to the point where we are now seeing like HG level Zoid's Kid, which was like a long time dream, and we finally get to see it. So it's really like kind of touching at the same time. Really hoping for this lineup to, you know, be successful, and so that we see more to come out. Now I am aware that they are constantly announcing new stuff, but once again, I'm really hoping that we see more. They pretty much like, you know, Shield Liger is gonna be like, has to be a given thing because they have already the basis on here. Of course, there might be some changes that needs to be made, but once again, this lineup has high potential. Would love to see more, or even become, you know, even more greater, to the point where back in the past they actually had Gunpla and Zoid Kids were actually competing with each other. I would love to see that to happen maybe in the future once more. Anyway, that was pretty much it for the review. This was the review of the T-Spot Realized Model 1/100 scale Blade Liger. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out of, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.